I want to talk about something very important for just a little while. Today's society is, I often talk about this, today's society being significantly off base. Let me talk about something specifically. We have had, within the last 10 years, a tremendous influx, I suppose might be the proper word, of computer literacy. Social networking, smartphones, texting, on your cell phones and all that. I think that we've got there are a lot of advantages from that. Social networking, we can connect with other people and share information and ideas that way. And I think that is largely a very good thing. But something else I'm noticing is that people are not talking to each other anymore. We're not communicating with each other. And when we do, often we have to be worried about offending people. You know, people taking things the wrong way and just hurting somebody's feelings in that, and having them shut us down and shut us out because we happen to step on the wrong nerve or whatever, step on the wrong toe, touch the wrong nerve. It's a disquieting development because we as people, as humans, have learned through the sharing of information, through self-expression, through language. And computers and social networking achieved that, yes. But we have evolved facial expressions to convey information and messages that we would not be otherwise able to convey through pure audio and through pure audio. And it's important because we've learned to read facial expressions and things like that. Well, what we're doing with social networking is now we've begun networking with people in isolation. There's none of the body communication. There's the facial expressions that are unseen so much. And so we're losing that bit of communication, which is vital. Every little bit of communication is vital. And the way that we're doing things now with texting, instant messaging, well, that's instant messaging, AOL Instant Messenger. Yeah, in social networking, here, I think what's happening is social networking. We get on social networks and we have like a shit ton of people on these social networks, and they are able to identify with like-minded individuals on social networking. So they can reach out to other people who also agree with their general stance on things and their outlook on life, and they can associate with those people. Now, say you got a group of people associating about a particular subject or a particular outlook on life, and they're all in agreement. So they're all reaffirming each other's beliefs. Now, somebody else, a person with feelings and with opinions and with some maybe valid stances on things, happens to disagree with what they're saying. So, because this group of people are in the midst of reaffirming each other's beliefs, somebody else comes in and says, "Hey, wait, you guys aren't thinking about this right." Well, they have consensus. They have the mob rule, in a sense. They've all been able to reaffirm each other's beliefs, and they are, what's the word? You know the word I'm looking for. They're in agreement with each other against this other person. And so they can block out what he's saying and believe they're justified, because they will all be reaffirming and validating each other's beliefs and each other's arguments against whatever so-and-so had to say. Now, they did this without actually critically thinking about what the other person had to say. They did this because their feelings and their group identity made them believe genuinely that their view was right and the other guy's view was wrong, without even stopping to consider if that was actually the case. I think social networking has enabled that more because when we talk to somebody face to face, we actually have to deal with them. We have to deal with their reactions, their emotions, and they have to deal with our emotions and our reactions. We both have to have this mutual respect with each other in order to have a conversation face to face. Social networking, we can choose who we want to have our conversations with. We can block out somebody else's opinion because we don't have to see their face. We can, you notice how many times people will talk shit to each other over Facebook. They'll say things on Facebook that they would never say to each other in person. And so that, again, that's showing that we act differently interacting with each other on a person-to-person basis than we do across a computer screen, because somehow we can lessen the other person's humanity because we have this disconnection with the computer that we haven't evolved to communicate through. Face-to-face communication we evolved to do that. The reason that we feel what we do when we're interacting face-to-face is because of evolution, largely. Social networking, I think, has taken away some vital parts of our communication with each other, and it has allowed us to isolate our minds from foreign ideas in a way that that's a big wasp, in a way that we're not supposed to do. We're not supposed to do this because the isolation of ideas is a Stone Age thing. The Amazon, the few tribes that are still isolated in the Amazon jungle, how much do they know? Really, they still have all kinds of wacky, superstitious, primitive beliefs and backwards society. And yes, it is genuinely a backwards society. They don't know things. The sharing of information leads to the natural selection of good information and good ideas. So the people, like in Stone Ages, they're in living in 2013 Earth, but they're still in their own cultural Stone Age because they're isolated. They're isolated from ideas. They're isolated from technology. And I'm not saying that like imperialism is a good thing, because I am very much against like British imperialism having been a good. Yes, it did a couple beneficial things, but a lot of those societies that British forced imperialism onto were already beginning to develop their own stable society naturally, and British imperialism simply impressed our cultural ideals on a society that was developing independently, and we made them regress in some areas anyway. But again, that ties into something else that's vitally important. But again, I keep coming back to isolation. I was isolated at being homeschooled, and so I didn't have the resources like the teachers and the communication with people who were actually professionals in certain areas, like a history. I had to ask my mom, which she knew some things, but she didn't know everything, which is where a connection with a history teacher or a biology teacher would have been good. And that, again, is increased information, where I can allow myself the natural selection of ideas. That's what education is, or should be, the natural selection of ideas. Cultures that are in isolation don't have that so much. They have, every once in a while, somebody in that culture is going to innovate, and that innovation will catch on. Yes, that happens. Otherwise, they wouldn't have spears, because spears were an innovation at one point that caught on for one reason or another. It was good for hunting. But anyway, coming back to contemporary problems of communication, we are pushing away ideas that we don't like. But guess what? We as individual people can be wrong. Have you ever been wrong about something? Yes. How did you realize that you were wrong about that thing? Probably by learning how it actually worked. By learning about it from somebody else who had different information. Again, natural selection of ideas. So we're in a society today where, like, I try and email, I have all kinds of questions floating around in my brain, and I want the connection with other people. I'm isolated. I'm still isolated. And I realize how bad it is. So I'm trying to reach out. I'm trying to reach out to other people. But people don't reply. People might disagree with a couple things I'm saying. They've decided to just write me off completely. So, you know, don't pay attention to what he says or whatever. I don't know. Just ignore him. He's being he's being an angry, upset. I don't know what people are saying, but whatever. But for some reason, I'm in isolation, even though I have access to YouTube. I have Facebook. I have email. I have all this stuff that should give me access to information and access to other people. Here's a quick little anecdote. Say I call somebody and I say, hey, professor of history, I have a quick question regarding, it doesn't matter, anything. And say the professor, the history professor says, well, why don't you just look it up? Well, yeah, that's a viable option, sure. I could just look it up. Or, since I'm talking to you, and you're a history professor, and you might know these things, you could just talk to me. Talk to me, like people have done for ages. People who write books are people who know things. People who know things, they write their books down, they have the information in the book. Now I can read the book, or I can ask the person who wrote the book. I could ask the person who wrote the book, okay, well, what about this? Well, read my book. Or you could just fucking answer me. Like people should do. We should be able to talk to each other. I email professors all the time, but because I'm not in their school, or I'm not paying for my education, they don't answer me. Or it goes right into spam, which is another frustration and another example of how we are losing communication in society today. We're losing it. That's not a good thing. Not at all. Because the entire reason that we've been able to build this society that we have today is because of communication. The communication of ideas, the communication of technology, the communication of all kinds of things. So we're beginning to isolate ideas and isolate groups mentally online. And it all comes down to people not wanting to be offended. We don't have to isolate our minds. We don't have to do this. But because people are offended, or because people say, oh, I don't agree with you, therefore I'm not going to discuss it. No, we need to discuss the things that we don't agree with, because those are the things that are important. There's disagreement, which means that somebody, okay, for everything in culture, a massive disagreement. For example, right now, capitalism versus socialism. Well, I don't want to talk to you because you're a socialist. I don't want to talk to you because you're a capitalist. We can't agree. The way that we figure things out is by talking to them. We don't have to agree, but to talk to each other. We can use our own reasoning and our own natural selection of ideas and thoughts to figure these things out using intelligence, which we evolved for these purposes. I don't understand why we're not communicating with each other anymore like we should be. Anyway, I'm hoping that gets the gist of it down. I'm really bad at organizing my thoughts. So, yeah, peace out.